Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show today. Excited to have you jump on here to the Longer Haul Youth Ministry Podcast with me. My name is Jody Livingston, and if you are brand new to the show, welcome. Excited to have you join us. You have probably picked the very best episode to jump in, at least my favorite episode by far. And so welcome if you're new. If you're not existing, if you're an existing listener or subscriber and follower, part of the Longer Haul community, thanks for hanging around and coming on back. If you haven't already subscribed and following the show, wherever you listen to podcasts, please do so. And if you're not a member of the super secret podcast group over on the Facebook, I'd love for you to join that as well. Good folks there in that group. And so there'll be a link for that in the show notes for you to jump in. This is the very first episode of 2023, which is crazy to think of. And it's interesting. We've been doing this a long time, it feels like now. And we've had a ton of guests. We've had a ton of conversations. And yet here, episode number 126, easily, by far, my favorite episode. I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode today because I think it's hopefully encouraging to you. And so I want to preface it a little bit before we jump in and just say I hope you receive this with the humility, at least I hope it's intended with. My kids jump on the show today. So all my 4 kids jump on and I just kind of give perspective of what it is from their perspective to be kids in youth ministry, growing up with their dad as a youth pastor. I was not in the room. I was kicked out of the room. My wife and I were both kicked out of the room. We set the mics up around our dining room table. Our oldest kind of steered the conversation. They came up with the questions, and the only stipulation I gave them was you just had to be honest and feel like they were. And, for the most part, came away really encouraged. I did. And there's some things too that I'm, if I'm honest with you right now, even I'm like, man, kind of bummed that is maybe how you feel or see some things, but just a good perspective. Again, my hope is that you hear it and you don't walk away necessarily thinking about, me and my wife and our parenting so much as just perspective from kids. And so if you have kids in ministry or you're raising kids in ministry, I hope you find this encouraging. I hope you find it helpful for you as you're jumping in and kind of listening and even hearing some of the thoughts that they're sharing. I'm sure are very similar to things that maybe your own kids would share one day. And then the next episode that has not yet released, if you listen to this at the day of release, my wife is jumping on the show, and her and I talk through kind of from our perspective of what it looks like to parent, some things that we've done in terms of the parenting side of things as we've navigated what it looks like to parent kids in ministry who have grown up with their dad as a pastor and a youth pastor and grown up in the youth ministry that we've been a part of. So hopefully really a cool combo here of this is kind of part 1. Next week will be part 2 of that. But anyway, super excited for you to hear this. Again, I hope you find it really encouraging for you as you try to parent, because it is a scary thing to parent in general. And I know as a parent of someone in ministry, for me at least, really scary a lot of times. And you're just wondering and hoping you're not raising your kids in a way that they would walk away or feel bitter towards the church. And so just, again, hopefully just encouraging, really practical things for you. So anyway, all that kind of said and out of the way and kind of the groundwork laid for us today, I will turn it over to my kids here and they'll introduce themselves off the front end. And then I will jump back once they wrap up here.
We have come up with some questions with each other, and we were going to answer them openly and pretty honestly. So we're excited to talk to you guys. But first, we are going to introduce ourselves. So I am Emma. I am 19, almost 20.
I'm Anna, and I'm 17.
I'm Lizzie, and I'm 16.
And I'm Jack, and I'm 14.
All right. So our first question is, how was growing up in youth ministry helpful to you? How was it helpful? I think people skills. I think I have pretty good people skills. I think I can talk to pretty much anybody.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Age-wise, except for my own. I'm just kidding.
Truth.
A little bit of hard there. But I think like I don't have a problem talking to older people, like just in general, because like I've grown up in youth ministry, so I've always talked to older people. But like also younger people, I'm fine with that because I work with kids all the time. So like I think just people skills in general, I think we're all pretty good at just talking to just anybody.
Yeah, especially random people who come up and are like, hey. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, hi.
We always call it like our inner dad.
Oh,
which is
yeah.
just randomly talk to people that we don't know. Because like we'll be at Target or something and dad will just start chatting away with people. And like sometimes I find myself like with that, like I'm about to do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like dad.
Yeah,
Dad's
pretty
coming out
much.
in me. Like it's going to happen.
I
Like,
do it all the time.
no,
at
yeah,
school.
it's so bad.
Awkward situations, I'll say one thing and I'm go, oh,
He's
I
not-
cringe.
He's like,
He's
"Dad."
coming.
No.
Yeah.
That's so funny. What else? What's helpful?
I think leadership skills, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Like, just because we have been in student ministry like our whole lives, literally since we were born, because
Yeah.
dad was youth pastor since before we were born, it's like we've always kind of been looked at as leaders. Once we started to actually get in youth ministry,
Yeah.
obviously not really before then because we were little. But like people always kind of think we have the answers, and so
I mean, we do, but
just I mean, I do,
Yes.
but you know, you don't have to assume.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
don't.
But I think just because everyone was always consistently like they started looking at us for the answers, it kind of just came a thing where like, okay, even if I don't have an answer, I got to figure this out, and I got to figure
Yes.
out.
Yeah, you have to have
tell
something to
people.
say.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got to have something to say at least, you know. And I think that's also like just a position that we've always been put in. So I think it's a really good thing just in general to have like in life.
yeah.
For like a little
Kind of
bit
to
of that
piggyback
leadership.
off of what Emma said, like communication skills are a big one, and I think we're more outspoken, I feel like now than I feel like if we weren't pastor's kids. I mean, we're all still not like super outspoken, but I would say like it's easier for us. Well, I mean, Emma's kind of outspoken. Emma's a little more outspoken than that.
outspoken than you guys.
That's
But I
true.
think it's just because I'm the oldest. Like I've always just like spoken for you guys because people are like, oh, who are these guys?
Yeah,
I'm
you're like,
oh,
let me
who's the
take
one
something.
that's, you know, like I'm just always the one that's talked. So like I feel like that's just.
But I
kinda
think
what-
it definitely
I'm
helped,
just more
like me
outspoken, but-
especially, talk to like people more than I think I would have if I hadn't grown up in a church and grown up around people who
Mhm.
like notice me because of who my dad is, I think.
I feel like
Right.
definitely growing up in youth ministry, you kind of like know.
You got it.
I don't have it.
Okay, keep going.
I mean, just know.
Yeah.
You just know.
You
I
just
mean,
know.
like,
You just
I
you
know.
either grew up in youth
know.
ministry or you don't.
That's okay.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Just kidding.
Okay, what are things that you have learned in ministry? So not necessarily like what we already said, but just like things that you have like seen going up in ministry that like you feel like you wouldn't see outside of it.
I think that's a hard question because we've always been in ministry, so it's kind of hard to see the flip side. Not because it's like maybe there's something I learned.
Yeah.
but
But like it's hard to like see it. Yeah.
would someone else have learned this? No idea.
Right.
You know.
Which I think like having friends that haven't grown up in ministry, like some of my friends didn't grow up in church, like so like me growing up in church, but then they'll bring something up, and I'm like, I've never
Yeah,
I
most
said
definitely.
that before.
Yeah.
Like I actually have never noticed that, which is like I'm learning because they're learning, but like I wouldn't have noticed it because I've just known it my whole life, you know. So I feel like finding things that I've learned other than like what we said, like just learning to be a good leader, learning to be good at communicating. I feel like anything outside of that is just hard to like pinpoint because like we've just grown up in it, so it's hard to like see things that we've learned, you know.
Yeah, like Lux's kid, it's hard to look at someone else's who's new to the church or hasn't literally grown up there their whole lives.
Right.
Like, I think it's just hard to see different
Mm,
perspectives.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so in what ways has growing up in youth ministry been challenging for you?
Probably like everyone, like my small group leaders, expect me to know pretty much every biblical question every single
Yeah.
time. Like every single time we have small group, I'm always like the first one to get called on, and I just keep getting called on until I have the right answer.
Yeah.
They're trying to break you
And
out of
then-
your
well,
shell.
I-
They're trying to
I
get you to
talk
say
enough.
something, you know.
And then like it's the same thing with like random kids.
I don't
Like
know about that
random kids
one.
in my small group will come up to me and they'll just ask me random questions I don't know the answer
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, kind of going along with you. Like, I think people see you in a way that like you just have to know all the answers. Like, oh, she grew up in church, she knows the answers. Like, she's read her Bible her whole life, like she knows the answers. But like, there's like stories in the Bible that I probably still have never heard, and I've what, being raised in church since before I was born. Like, so
In the
it's
womb,
like, so it's like hard to like sometimes like people just call on you, or like people have an eye on you because they know that you're just like I know at our old church, like old people would notice that.
Oh my gosh, Emma, no.
Like, that's not what I meant to say. Like
wow,
people,
insulting.
people at the church
Yeah.
would like notice if we were gone, because like we were at like somewhat of a smaller church, like it's smaller than what we're at, so more people would notice that we're gone. But like I feel like at our church now, like people wouldn't notice as much, but we still have like that standard for ourselves because we know like that's how we've just grown up, that people notice when we're gone and they notice like what we're doing and how we're acting and just things like that. So I feel like that's challenging, that like, you know, people are watching and they see you and they think that you know all the answers, but that like you should be acting the godliest out of all these other people that are also attending the church. But like, just like everybody else, like we have our own challenges in life. Like we could be having a bad day, you know? So like, just like people having an eye on you, I guess is what I would say.
I think also like Jack was saying with like all the answers, but not just like the
Oh my
random
gosh, yeah.
answers,
Oh my
like,
gosh,
events,
yeah. In general.
just random
Oh
events
my
at
gosh,
church.
yeah.
How many times has someone walked up to me and been like, "Hey, what time does this start? And where's this at? What is this?"
There's
I'm
a
like,
sign
"Oh,
there's a
I
sign
know
somewhere
that."
that has all your answers.
I'm like, I could find you a bulletin
Or like
for it.
people will
I don't
ask like
know.
right now like about camp stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh my gosh,
I'm like,
yeah.
I know less than you do probably. Like I'm not.
Or I think sometimes people will forget that
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
in the
that's-
room or that my dad is Jody
Mhm.
because they'll say
room,
stuff
yeah,
like
like,
him.
are you-
Like while I'm in the
Which is
room, and I'm
all-
like, "Are you?"
Which is also
Do
kind
you
of challenging
understand?
because like in that like
Because
at that moment,
I can't say anything.
yeah, you want to say something, but like if you say something and it comes across mean, then you're just
Oh
like,
my gosh,
So
yeah.
it's a bad
It's
reflection
awful.
on dad, so it's like I can't.
So so it's like
Yeah,
trying to
they
balance
definitely
that
put
as
you
well.
in more of a leadership position, I would say. Like you've been saying, like, especially in small group, they kind of expect you to like take charge and like answer and like
Mhm.
just in general, just like
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
cooperative, I guess, in your small group and stuff. And it's
Mhm.
just really hard a lot of times.
yeah,
I think a challenge also is like just like in normal events, it's hard because for the years we were at such a smaller church where everyone, Emma just said, like everyone was looking at you, people noticed what you were doing during service. Like it was just kind of like sometimes it's hard in service when we're like trying to like be in the moment. It's hard to be in the moment when you like look around and you're like, people might be
Yeah.
looking
people are
at me.
definitely looking at what
People
I'm
might-
doing. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I agree.
Like when everybody like goes up to the front during like worship.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah,
I can't
it's-
do that.
oh,
People
yeah.
see me.
Oh yeah, no, same.
That's why I like staying in the back.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't like
if
being
no one
judged.
sees me. I'm just here.
Yeah, even over the summer when I was gone, I worked at a summer camp, and like even like the way I would worship, I was like, people are watching me right now, like I can't. But like literally nobody in the room knew me other than like
Mhm.
the people I was working with every week. So it was like, and they didn't even know me my whole life except for like
Yeah.
the leader or whatever. But I was like, even then I was like, people are watching me. Like I can't. I just have to keep my arms crossed and like sway, you know. But like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I feel
hard to
stuff
like
I agree with you
participate in the
on that
church
as
like
well.
normally when you have the expectation of
Yeah.
like being a pastor's kid. Like you can't just do things recklessly. You have to think about it first and think about how it's going to reflect on you. And most importantly, like your dad, like our dad. It's just really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like taking account of your own like feelings and thoughts, but also like taking account of like dad and like and mom and just like
Yeah.
the reflection it would have on them. Yeah, for sure. All right. So what are some fun things that you have experienced being in youth ministry?
The games.
And that was-
Yes.
yeah, those
the
games are
games
awesome.
are-
Like
What games? Be more
when
specific.
back at our old church, there was always the older kids, like high, like I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe it might have been college ministry, maybe.
One of the
Something
two.
like that.
Probably both, yeah.
And
I think it's both.
they just used to play a lot of games, and since we were there, we would just end up playing with them.
Yeah. And that was
Just
pretty
get
fun.
involved in it, yeah.
Oh, I love
lock-ins.
Yeah,
and
or, like,
Yeah.
underground
Dodgeball
church.
tournament.
Yeah, it was cool to see
Yeah.
like all of those games and to participate in them like as a younger kid. It's just kind of made you feel really cool, and just like it was just really fun, really fun.
Yeah.
You could see like the older kids, like the high schoolers, just being around them and like just hanging out. You could see their like excitement, like to run around with us on their backs, to
Mhm.
literally swing us around in circles forever, and we'd keep going again. You know, like
Yeah.
it was like and stuff like that. And I think it was just like it's honestly kind of fun right now just to see like all the kids that like I remember like being in mom and dad's student ministry that like we're in middle school and now they're
It's
like
crazy.
engineering
Yeah,
college.
I'm like, what?
It's
Where
making me
did
feel
that?
old, and I don't like it.
Mom and dad are always like, oh man,
I
they're
was-
so old. They have like 2
I was
kids.
like,
I'm like,
damn,
I feel
yeah,
old.
they
literally.
didn't have any kids when I knew them. I was like,
They were a kid.
like they were.
They used to babysit
no,
me.
like they were at our house every Friday babysitting us. Like
Literally.
Yeah.
They used to come and get free pizza from us.
no,
Like,
literally, like they
this
go
is
in our
where we're-
fridge, get our leftovers. Like yeah,
this is
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say like just being able to experience camp.
Oh, yeah.
like as like just not a regular attender, like as a staff kid. Like I went to camp for the first time when I was like 6 months old, and I probably went every summer up until we moved, except for maybe like a few that I went to elementary camp. But even then, like I'd probably still go during the winter when the youth would go on like the winter
Yeah.
I was retreat there. So like I was just there all the time, and so like even just like being able to see the camp grow as well, but also seeing like the people that like were in the youth ministry grow as we went like with them, you know, I think was really fun. And also just being able to go on mission trips that
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like I wouldn't have been able to if I wasn't a staff kid. I went to El Salvador when I was super young, and I probably wouldn't have been able to do that had my dad not been in youth ministry. And like I remember so much of that trip vividly, even though I was so young, but like it was such a big like part of, I feel like, my life. Like it was just a really cool experience that like I feel like I would never forget, even like no matter what my age. And so being able to experience that like as like young as I was, I think is really cool, especially since like I don't think other people might have that opportunity that we have, you know.
I think it's also fun, like, because like our dad like involves us in a lot of stuff, right? Like dad, he's
Mhm.
always just like, you know, hey, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think that? So it's like fun, like
Yeah.
seeing like the planning process and like helping with the planning process of like being involved and then seeing it happen and being able to be like,
Yeah.
none of y'all
knew
did,
about
but
this
I
the
did.
whole time.
It's like,
Yeah,
like,
that's
'cause, like if it's a surprise at like fall rally or something, or like camp preview, and it's like everyone
Yeah.
like is like screaming and is excited. I'm like,
Like, that's because of me.
I'm like,
I'm just like
knew-
laughing because
Yeah.
I
you
knew
know,
the whole
it's
time.
just like it's fun to know stuff other people don't, you know?
Yeah, and it's fun to be part of the decision too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
and also
Also
being
being-
behind the scenes, but then also being
Mhm.
like to see it, you know, because we've like, yes, we're behind the scenes, but we're also like still in the youth ministry. So we're seeing it in both like, but when I
Yes.
was, well, not me as much, but when I was, but it's still cool to like see all that. But now like I see behind the scenes as like older, but then like I see it through you guys and I see like your reactions to it, you know, so it's like cool things like that. But yeah. All right. So what is different in your life that you think differs from other kids your age involved in church or other kids your age that are not involved in church? So go with the that are involved in church first, and then we'll talk about the other one after.
I think just like being at church all the time, like even if like their families are involved in church, like their doesn't mean their parents work there, you know? And so it's like it's different. Like
Mm-hmm.
even when dad's not working, he's working at church. Like he's always putting in like the extra
Right.
work and putting in like the time and like really, really working hard. And so it's like we're always there like with him
Yeah.
too, like helping and just hanging out, you know, serving wherever I needed and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like there. We're always there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of agree. I feel like we just always have been always at church. Doors are open, we're
Mhm.
there. Doors are closed, we're still there. Like no matter what. And like dad's just always like, yes, dad works technically Sunday through Thursday, but Fridays and Saturdays he's still
Yep.
the youth pastor. Like his job doesn't end when he leaves, you know? So like I feel like ministry is just like a 24/7 every day type of job rather than just like clock in, clock out. Like where like my job, I clock in, I clock out. I don't have to do anything that has to do with it when I'm not there. But like for dad, like he could work a full day, work day, come home and be like, oh, I need to do this. Like, and he does it at the moment. Or like a family will call him asking for guidance or help or something. And then he does that. And he would probably not be during the workday, but he still has having to like do that, you know? So I think like even seeing that or like having a dad that is just like so
Yeah.
invested in his job like that, I think some people may not see as much as like we do just because like we've also grown up with that. So what about people that are
It's
involved in
probably
church?
like different, like the whole, like during the services, like from
Mhm.
worship to message. Since like we've been growing up
Mhm.
in church, we were like used to all of it, but like maybe they're not as used to
Mhm.
like the messages or the songs.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Especially like with new songs and stuff like that coming out too. sometimes like people who aren't involved in church, they'll hear it and they're like, I don't know how to sing this, but like we do.
Yeah, we're
'Cause,
like every Sunday.
we know,
I
you know,
think
but
just maybe coming from going to church at all and then coming into church where it seems like everyone knows what they're doing and everyone knows like what's next. Like I don't even want to think about like if you have never been to church before and never heard anything about church and it's like communion.
yeah.
Oh,
you're
that's
like-
just I don't
Everyone
know.
gets up and starts walking to tables and
this
you're
last
like,
Sunday.
is this what's going on? You know? It's just like
yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like that's just
even if I
confusing
know
as a
what's going on,
whole,
sometimes I'm like,
sometimes
Oh,
like
Like,
zone
why is
out for
everybody
one
saying it
second.
right
I'm
now?
like, oh gosh.
getting the bread.
Body of Christ.
that's
Yeah, it's hard to see
That's so
like different
funny.
perspectives too. Like when you grew up in church, it's hard to see like Anna said, like to see communion, or like Jack said, to see worship and just to see services. Like it's really hard to see that perspective, and I think it definitely differs from ours because we're just always around it, so we're kind of used to it. So yeah, it's just really hard to see both.
I feel like people who aren't involved in church probably like have more of a life than
Oh,
we do.
Yeah, I mean, as bad as it sounds,
I
yeah.
feel like we're just like we're at home, we're at church, home, church, school in the middle. Like there's not really like we're just at both places. But I think that people who aren't as involved in church, like I feel like they're doing more. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Not like we're not doing anything, but like
No.
they're probably doing more than we are.
yeah, they're
But-
experiencing more too.
And that kind of, I feel like it kind of sounds bad when we say that, but like that we're like always at church. We're always like this.
Yeah.
But
But
like
we like it.
Yeah, we love the church. Like,
it's not something that's like, oh, we're always at church. We can never leave. Like we have license. We have cars.
have cars.
We could leave. We just
we just would
we
rather.
choose not to.
it's honestly we have learned from like being little to make up fun things to do at
Oh,
church.
yeah.
So
for
many
sure.
fun games we
Just
have.
like do random stuff. Like it's more fun honestly to be at church than to just be sitting at home doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
agree.
at church you have like a huge open church with like
There's
nobody in
vending
it.
machines,
Yeah, there's
right,
vending
soda. They got
They got
machines.
some Diet Coke in there.
Yeah.
Oh, ew.
I love
Well,
me some Diet Coke.
Yeah, probably not Diet
Don't be a
Coke.
hater.
Dr. Pepper.
But there's couches. You can just take a nap.
Oh
There's-
yeah.
There's like games you can go find, crafts. So like, yes, we have our license, but I'd like it, like you said, I'd rather be finding something in the church, you know? But yeah. Well, the next one. What was hard about the move to California?
Yeah. Everything.
Yeah,
It was
probably-
Not
really hard.
everything. Some
Not
of it was
some of it
good.
was good. Yeah. Like now I think I can see all the
Well,
positive
now
things
it
that
is,
come.
but it wasn't.
It
then.
wasn't
Yeah, it wasn't then. Now I can see all the positives, but then it was like awful.
Yeah.
I'd probably say the most difficult part was like leaving friends, because most of
Mhm.
the people that I knew, I pretty much knew like
Your whole
yeah,
life.
He was a
since I
baby,
was
Yes,
pretty
dude.
much a baby.
Because when we moved to Georgia from North Carolina, you were a baby, so like you didn't really have any foundations in North Carolina.
No.
And I was in the middle of first grade, and then you guys were like in between that. So like we didn't really have like long lasting friendships that we had made. Like I still have some friends from North Carolina that I remember that I follow on Instagram, but that's because like
Follow on
listen,
Instagram.
listen. But that's because mom and dad like were friends with their parents for a while after
College
we moved.
roommates.
You know, yeah, or like they just knew them for a long time. So like I follow their kids now because like I knew them, like I know of them. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, you don't know them.
Yeah, like I do know them personally, but I'm not like I don't
You've met
talk
them
to
a
them,
few
but I've
times,
met
but-
Yeah,
them. So like
yeah.
I want to know what's going on in their life because I've seen them before, you know. But I think like the friends that we had in Georgia were like family. The closest family we had from Georgia where we lived was like 7, 6, 5 hours somewhere around there. And so like even when we wanted to go see family, we couldn't really see family other than like we would leave Friday morning, come back Sunday night, or like we would just take off a few days of school randomly, or like even then it was hard. And so even for like some like Thanksgiving or Christmas, we wouldn't be able to go see family just because like dad's having to work on Christmas Eve, you know,
Yeah.
which like we love being at the church, but like seeing all these people being able to go see family or just have family around would feel like was hard in general, just even in Georgia. And so now that we're in California too is even harder just because like we have family that comes and sees us, but like it's harder for us to go see them because plane tickets are like
So
a
expensive.
gazillion dollars.
Gas prices.
And so and gas prices and like it like days to get there. So I think just leaving the friends that we had, I agree, because they were like family because we didn't really have like family near us, you know. But I agree.
Yeah, I think it's also hard to see them like move on with their lives now too, as like
Mhm.
we're all getting older, we're all like experiencing different things, and it's hard to see. I don't know. It's just hard to see them so far away and you can't really talk to them or do anything.
Yeah, I think it's definitely hard, like, now, like, just, like, where I'm at, because I'm a junior in high
Right.
school, and I'm going to be a senior next year, so it's hard seeing, like, my best friends that I'd known since I was, like, 3, you know, doing stuff that we'd always talked about, like, doing, like, oh, next year they're going to go do, like, senior sunrise, they're going to
Yeah.
go to prom together, they're going to do this together, you know, it's,
Yeah.
like, I'm an observer, I'm a part of it.
Yeah. I think like also in the stage of life that you and I were in when we moved, like I was starting to like look at colleges I was wanting to go to, or like starting to talk about those things with my friends, and your friends were starting to like think about going into high school. And so like just like both like big steps in life that we were moving like during. I know like, and then COVID happened when we got here
Oh,
and we
gosh.
changed schools again. So like I went to 3 different high schools. So having to start over twice, COVID, like trying to decide school, but also like battling the fact that like our friends on the East Coast were like figuring out like big life decisions that we were a part of, but we weren't like there for every conversation that they were having, you know, I think was really hard. And like, even like with you, like when I got here, most of my friends had already gotten their license, but with you, like all your friends were getting their license like while we were still here. And so it was kind of like, I remember you talking about like the battle of who would get their license first, or like who was going to be the better driver, or things like that. I feel like you were just in that life stage. So, like I feel like that was really challenging, especially for you. But yeah, just a lot was challenging. But like now we definitely see the positive of it, and we see that like I know for me, some of the friends that I had, I feel like if we had stayed there, I wouldn't be in the best place that I am right now. I know like God took people out of our lives for a reason, and that like it's just helped me value the friendships that I actually want to value more. The friends that you're going to actually have after moving, like they'll reach out to you, or like you'll reach out to them, and they'll seem genuinely interested in what you're saying and genuinely interested in what you have going on. So just that as well.
Yeah, I think another big thing was probably like the culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we went from Georgia, like the South, to California, which is very different from the South
Yeah, for sure.
in a bunch of ways. So I think it was just hard to get used to just like the smallest things that like we didn't realize were strange to them, and vice versa, like the same thing. So I think it was just hard to get used to like the new, like the California way that of life that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I think we're still, honestly, to this day, experiencing culture shock.
Oh,
Like,
most definitely.
For
there's
sure.
stuff that like I'll like my friends will say at school, and I'll come home and I'll be like, guess what? Whatever said about this, like that is
Yeah, like,
ridiculous.
that's
That's
so
so like that's backwards. And then my mom's like, well, it's different here. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
duh, but
Yeah.
like,
That is-
wrong?
I mean,
it's weird. But it's not like
Why is it like
And then-
that?
And I like ask other people at the table when one person says something, that's weird, right? That's backwards. And I'm like, no. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
are you kidding me?
Or just like with food.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, yeah.
Like where we live, like there's a big like Hispanic culture, and so there's a lot of like authentic Mexican food. Where we've grown up, it's Tex-Mex, and so
Yeah, not the
we're
same.
like, I'm like, oh man, I really miss Chewy's, or I really miss some like good like queso, like cheese dip. Like I called it cheese dip here one time, and they were like, oh my gosh,
dip, you're
what is wrong with this girl?
Yeah, it was
But like even just like food wise too, I feel like it was really weird. So like having to also come here, and then like the food here is different. Like yes, they have the basic things, but like just things like that is still weird to me sometimes.
yeah,
Especially-
even like little nursery rhymes or little songs you would
Oh.
sing
Oh my
are like
gosh, yeah,
so
the chicken
different
dance.
here.
That's the biggest thing.
What?
They do the chicken dance different here.
Oh my god.
They sing Down by the Banks weird here
Yeah.
too.
I know. And the
Lemonade
no,
crunchy
that's-
ice one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
lemonade
That one too.
Yeah.
It's so
Lemonade
weird.
Iced tea. What is that?
What is that?
What
It's
is iced
crunchy
tea?
ice.
It's sweet tea. Sweet tea.
Yeah, it's
Oh
just
yeah, the sweet tea thing. No good sweet tea here.
no.
And
That was
if
challenging.
it's good sweet tea, they're like, ew, this is gross. It hurts my
Yeah.
Yeah. So the culture shock was definitely a huge thing for all of us, I think, and it's still something we're getting used to. And I don't know I think it's just gonna be part of like we're always gonna be from the South, and we live in California now, so it's gonna be like both, just kind of with us.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard keeping like the southern identity, I guess.
Yeah,
being
I
in
do.
California.
I just
'Cause
yeah.
it's like every once in a while I'll say something and I'm like, that sounded so California. I don't like this. I didn't mean it. Like I said, yeah, no, the other day, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh,
Like the no, yeah.
no,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, no,
no.
yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah, no,
gosh,
no.
it's happened.
That's funny. All right. So what advice would we give to youth pastors listening who have kids or older kids and are considering a big move?
I think honesty and like description
Mm-hmm.
of what the plan is. like communication
Yeah.
is probably the most important thing, because
Yeah.
if your kids don't know what's happening and they just move.
I think like involving them in those conversations is really helpful.
Yeah.
And I think our parents did that like pretty well, like mapped out everything. You know, they were
Mhm.
like, but from the beginning, they told us, they were like, so we're going to be moving. We don't know where we're moving, but we are moving. These are
Yeah.
they're like, these are the options. We're not really sure. And then like as like a door closed, you know, they were like, okay, so this is not on the table anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This is on the table. This is like this, you know, and they
Yeah.
kind of,
And if doors opened, they also were open with those
Yes.
like about to us.
Mm-hmm. That was
we
really
weren't just sitting there like, we're going to move to Alabama. And then 2 weeks later, nope, we're moving to California. Never mind.
yeah.
It
It
was
wasn't.
like we were part of the process, you know.
Mhm.
We obviously didn't have like final decision, but we know that I know that our opinions,
Yeah.
they
Care,
had weight.
like what we had
Yes.
to
They
say.
took it into consideration.
yeah.
were
I feel
heard.
like
Yes. I agree.
moving was really scary, but like it was just really scary for all of us. But I think our parents including us in the conversation
Mhm.
of what was going on and just like things slowly being eliminated by God and just like showing us where God was wanting us, I think was really important. And I think it's
Mhm.
something that like everybody, like I just think it's really cool.
I think also like showing your kids that like your decision is guided by God and not
Yes.
by like your desires. Like I know if it was for our desires, we probably would have stayed on the East Coast near people. But obviously like we're in California. We didn't know anybody except for like a cousin or two that has lived here for a while that we're not really close to. And so it was just kind of like my parents put a lot of emphasis on the fact that like it was God closing a door or like a chapter in Georgia and was opening a new one somewhere else, just like for more opportunities and more just like not a better life, but just like a better like way than like the way we were going.
Yeah,
That
like
makes sense.
where God wanted us.
Yeah. Yeah. And so just kind of being open to the fact that like just telling your kids that like it's not just a you, like we're moving you away from all your friends and family, like we're leaving, you know, like just saying that like God is at the heart of this and that like we're moving because of like him and his like desire for us to move and like him opening doors for us, you know.
Yeah, especially because like when you really go back and think about it, like we'll be angry in the moment. We were angry in the
Oh,
moment.
We
Yeah,
were
for sure.
so upset.
You
Yeah.
know, but then like upon further reflection, when you're sitting there, bro, whatever. Why does God want us to do this? I think they're whatever. And then you sit there and you're like, why am I sitting here being mad at God right now?
Yeah. For
No,
what?
Yeah.
You know?
No,
Like,
yeah. You could be mad at God, but he's still gonna be
He still loves
He's
you.
still-
Like he just
like
and you're probably still gonna end up where he wants you, like Jonah in the whale.
yeah.
yeah,
You're gonna, you
literally.
can pitch a fit and you can be whatever,
Yeah.
but you're still gonna end up where he wants you in the end. And it's like there's not really a point, you know, being
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it also reminded me like he's moving us there for a reason, and like to see the reason why he's moving us there, and to like think of like all the just like what's waiting for us over there. Also, I think helped.
Mm-hmm. I think now looking back at it, like I see the reason why he moved us and why, just like the positives of it that we didn't see in the moment. But all right, so obviously we're all like really involved in serving at the church. So what do you think mom and dad did well to help create like the desire to serve in us?
I think a big part of it was them like encouraging us. Like they've
Mhm.
encouraged us pretty much our entire lives
Yeah.
to be involved and like help people.
Yeah.
And they've kind of like grown us up to be like always helping with anything going on.
Yeah.
Whenever
think-
we're there.
Yeah, we were always just like little helpers in every aspect in like youth ministry in general.
Helping where we could.
Yeah, like mom would be setting up snacks and we'd be like, all right, like we're here to help. Like and we're
Give
like
us the pens. We got
in
this. You
second
know.
grade,
Yep.
unpackaging Oreos. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
we were just there to like help us always. And so just like seeing people's actions in like in wanting to serve just in general, and not only youth ministry, but just in ministry as a whole, like seeing people that are wanting to be there and wanting to serve with kids or serving in productions or serving in other areas, you know, just kind of showed us that like we should be serving. And so like it just kind of like created a desire for us to want to.
Yeah, them setting like a good example was definitely a huge part in why I enjoy serving now too. Like just seeing that they could help that many people and that God was using them in such like an amazing way. I think just like it was really awesome. I just really like seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think also like like Jack was saying, like encouragement, but like with like a light hand, not like a you have to serve, go do it right now.
Yeah.
Like it was more just like encouraging, like, you know, they have this at church that you could like maybe try, and like you don't have to like
Mhm.
keep doing it, just try, you know, like.
Yeah.
And then like it's also just like, just try it. If you don't like it, then we'll find something else. Maybe there's something else that your talents could like help, you know,
Yeah.
because like everyone has different talents, and like you're not gonna serve somewhere where your talents aren't wanted, you know. Like
Yeah.
I love little kids, I love hanging out with little kids. I don't like babies and I don't like adults, but I like the little like preschoolers, you know.
Mhm.
And so that's where I serve. And so, but like Lizzie, she doesn't like the little kids, so she serves with like kinder and like first. So she serves
Mhm.
like towards like elementary school, and Emma serves with the older ones because she doesn't really like the smaller kids either.
Mhm.
But then Jack, he doesn't like hanging with kids, so then he likes, and
No
he's
problem
really
with
good
that.
at like, technical stuff, and so he'll serve with productions and do lights and help program things and stuff like that on Sundays and
Yeah.
Saturdays.
Which my talents would not be very useful
No.
in productions.
I don't think
Me
any of
neither.
ours would be.
And no offense to Jack, but I don't think his talents would be very helpful in elementary. So it's just like serving where your talents are needed and like are wanted, and that like where you'll thrive in that, I think are really good.
I think that's something we learned from example, because mom and dad aren't good at everything.
Yeah.
It's not something that they're like mom is really, really compassionate. That's part of her thing. So, and dad is always the most compassionate when
Yes.
people or whatever. So it's like where dad is super compassionate, mom brings in that compassion because that's where her talents lie, you know, and stuff like that. And mom is really good at planning, and so she'll help dad plan stuff and stuff like that. And dad is obviously really good at like talking to any person, which is
It's a skill. I don't even
it's unfathomable. Has to be a godly gift. That's all.
No,
literally though.
That dude will talk to anything.
Yeah.
but like sometimes I catch myself doing it. Like I'll be talking to anybody,
I'll do.
and I always say like, "Oh my gosh, it's the dad in me coming out." Like
Yeah.
like I was at a hockey game the other day, and I was so close, just chatting it up with the person next to me, but I was like, "No, like they're here with their kids. Like I'm not gonna be. So, do you go to church? Like whatever." Which I guess I probably should have just like at least like said something, but in that way, I was just like, I'm bringing the dad out in me, like.
Yep.
But like that's where dad's like so good in youth ministry, because he can just talk and he'll find like topics to think of,
Yeah.
which is like where he's really good in youth ministry, because sometimes kids like in youth ministry, like high school, they're not going to want to talk. They're like, I'm here for my friends, not really for anything else. And so like just having like making conversation, I think is really good, especially with us serving in kids, like with dad, seeing dad being able to like carry on conversation so well has like showed us how to carry on conversation well, and like growing up in ministry and seeing. So I think that's really helpful and like has created that desire. All right. So why do you love the church?
I think that's a hard question because I feel like that's all we've really known.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that like we love the church because that's all we've known, you know,
right,
not to say
right, right.
But I think it's like, at least for me, I don't know if I necessarily, it's kind of like how you love like your family member. It's like
Mhm.
they're part of, you know, like they're
Yeah.
our meat, you know?
For sure.
And so I feel like I don't really know where I would be, and I don't think I would know where like all of us would be, like,
Yeah.
and how different we would be without it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Which
think
I
it's in
love
that way.
about the church, because like it's formed us into who we are.
Yeah.
There's definitely lots of our aspects of our personality that we've like learned from church and that have,
Mm-hmm.
you know, happened at church.
Yeah, for sure.
And not all godly, just like in general, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say like the community. I think just like knowing that you have people at church that like are involving you in just like their lives in general. Like I have a really strong friend group right now that is like my community at church. And like they're there for me no matter what. They're going to be there to like provide support and just kind of like not put me in my place, but like if I'm acting dumb, they're going to be like, you're acting dumb. Like they're going to be there. But like just being able to have like a strong like foundation just in the church that I'm involved in, I think is really, I just love about the churches.
I love, especially with like the like kindergarten and first graders that I serve with, I love seeing like their love of God and like their relationship grow, because even though they're young, you can tell like they're wanting to learn about God and Jesus, and they're wanting to read their Bibles and to worship in all the little songs they sing. And it's just really cool to see them just grow and just grow in their relationship with God.
just being able to watch them.
Yes,
like, walk
especially.
through those. Because, like, Anna's with them when they're young. She's
Yeah.
with them when they're in the middle, and then I'm with them when they're older. So, like, just be able to see them, like, walk. And we've been here for 4 years. So there's already kids that are, like, moving through, like,
Which is just
every-
crazy to think about. It's
like all of the grades that we are involved in. So it's just really cool to see that, like I might have a kid that Anna had, like, when we first got here, and she'll be like it's just really cool to see, like, the growth in that, which I think is just, our church has a lot of emphasis on, like, the growth of
yes.
children's faith, like the childlike faith, just like, and also just having emphasis on, like, adults to, like, see that and, like, have their
Yes.
kids be involved in what their kids are involved in. I think is really cool too.
Mhm.
I think me personally, I feel like the community is a big part of why I love the church, because everyone's welcoming, like everyone's welcoming. And, like, if I, like, don't have something that I need, like, if we're taking notes during a message and I don't have a pencil, I don't have notes, I can ask someone
Right.
and they'll, like, do their best to get me what I
Right.
need.
People just like we have meal trains sometimes for people that are in need, or like someone get in a car accident. We do meal trains, like, just like people providing meals every night of the week, so that, like, that family doesn't have to think about one additional thing to go onto that.
Or like if a family has a new baby. I know, like, one
Yeah.
of Dad's coworkers recently had a new baby, and when they made the announcement at church, they were like, people were emailing asking, hey, what's their email? I want to send them a gift card for this. I want to send them
Yeah.
a gift card for that, so they don't
Yeah.
have to worry
Yeah.
about maybe the next few meals. Like, maybe they have a gift card to, like, Target, so they get some diapers and some other
Yeah.
things like that. You know, it's just like everyone is very cared for. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or just like providing clothes as well in that aspect. I know, like, some people, like, there's so many staff kids, I feel like, and so, like, we've all been babies at one point, so like everybody at least has some baby clothes that you can donate, or like even like clothes that don't fit Lizzie anymore, who's the youngest, like, we can give to a family that has kids maybe a little bit younger than us, so that they, like, are cared for, and they're, like, you know, like, in that aspect, which goes along with the community part as well.
Yeah. Just the giving nature and just, like, the caring for aspect of the church is just really amazing.
Yeah.
Like they said.
Yeah, which I think has been consistent in the churches that we've been at. Like, I don't feel like at either church there was a lack of community. I think at both, like, at our other church in Georgia, everybody just knew everybody. But I also feel like we just grew up there, so we just knew everybody in general. And, like, most people went to the same high schools, or, like, knew people at different high schools. And so, like, just that community was, I guess, different than the community here. I feel like people don't go to the same high schools as often. There's just a lot. Like, we live in a bigger area than we did over there. But I still feel like the community is just as strong, because I think, like, because you're only seeing these people, like, every Sunday or Wednesday, like, you're reaching out during the week more, because, like, you know that you're only going to see them that one time. It's like you want to be there for them, and you want to reach out, and you want to, like, know that they're cared for, like we said before. But
Yeah.
all right, so we are wrapping it up, but our last question/statement kind of thing is just one piece of advice or encouragement for youth pastors that have kids in ministry. It's like, what would you have to say to them?
I would definitely, like, back to what I kind of said earlier, encourage your kids to serve,
Mm-hmm.
like, so they have, like, a good kind of, like, bunch of people, like the people they serve with.
Yeah.
Like, they have a good community, like, and they have people, like, if they are going through, like, a hard time, they can just ask, like, they have people to ask,
Mm-hmm.
people to talk with.
So they get, like, a servant's heart.
Yeah. And that, like, they're involved in what you're, like, the church that you're involved in.
Mhm.
And, like, they don't have to help with youth. Like, if they're older and they don't have to help, like, they can help in kids like we are, or they can help in productions, like, just fine.
On any of the serve teams we have.
They get
Yeah.
the servant's heart to maybe not just serve at church, but serve somewhere else, so that other people can see God's kindness and things like that.
Yeah.
In their daily lives, you know,
Yeah,
not
for
just
sure.
at church, you know?
Yeah.
I would say to just remember that, like, your kids are watching you and they're learning from you, even if you don't feel like they are, because I know, like, teenagers a lot, like, especially me, like, I'll roll my eyes and I'll pretend like I moved on with my life.
Yep.
Or I'll just stare at them and not say anything. I'm watching my parents at church, and I'm watching them in just regular lives, and I'm learning from them, and I'm seeing how they react to things, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing how they do certain things, and I'm definitely learning.
And they're, like, interactions with other people.
Mhm.
Like we've learned from it too. I would say just keeping them involved. I know like when we moved, our parents kept us involved in like the moving process, but like even just in like decision making, sometimes in the church, like they'll ask our opinion because like we are in the, well, I'm not, but I used to be, but like when we were all in the youth ministry, they'd ask our opinion on like certain things that were going on. Like, what are your opinions on this? Or what do you think? Like, is this a good idea? Or things like that. Just like keeping them involved so like they know that their opinion matters to you and that like you care what they have to say. I know like our parents were redoing a room in the youth center and they asked our opinion on like pillows. And like, yes, that's a tiny thing, but like even like knowing that they like care about our opinions, I think is really helpful. So just keeping them involved in like what you're pouring your heart out to so that they can see why you're pouring your heart out into what you're doing, I think is really helpful too.
Yeah, I would say like just because you're always at church and your kids are always at church doesn't mean they don't like being there.
Mm-hmm.
Like as we've said, like we grew up in the church. That's like all we've really known. Well, not all we've known, but like that's just something it's just been a constant in our lives.
Right.
And I think that it's something that we've really not grown, but we've always loved. And I think that it's just just because your kid's around church all the time doesn't mean they don't like being there. Like I think they just like, I don't know, we love being at our church.
Which I think is something that they grow into. I think like you just have to be patient. Like there's definitely been parts in our lives where we just did not want to be at church, but like now we like love being at church. Like I think kind of like what we said before, like we'd rather be at the church than just sitting at home doing nothing. Like we'd rather be involved. We'd rather be doing something, helping, things like that. But I think like we just have grown up in that ministry, which I know like some people that are listening, like their kids probably didn't grow up in that. Like there might be new youth pastors that are like having kids that are like diving into that. But I think like just like keeping them like involved. I just want to put emphasis on that.
Yeah. But being involved is a huge thing, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for letting us take over. We're going to put it back and turn it back to our dad.
Well, all right. There you go. I just think great conversation for them. Interesting. Again, just even listening to that as the parent of them, thinking there's some things that I feel like we got right, and there's some things I wish we could have done better, and probably still need to do better. We're by no means perfect parents, and have not always gotten it right. But we do have kids who, I will say, genuinely love the Lord, love the church, and at least at this point in their life are really walking faithfully. And I know that faithfulness today doesn't necessarily always mean that that'll continue, but our goal and hope has been to lay a strong foundation. And so that's still our aim and goal. Thanks again for jumping on and listening today. Again, next week, next episode will be my wife and I jumping in, and we'll talk a little bit from the parents' perspective. So kind of part 2 of this. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow wherever you are. Jump into the podcast group. I'd love to have you jump in and be a part of that community as well. Head over to thelongerhaul.com. You'll find show notes there with links to jump into that group, among other helps and resources. So thank you so much for what you're doing. Thanks for all the ways you're pouring and investing into the parents, families, and students in your ministry. And especially in this episode, I want to thank you for, if you are parenting, thanks for how you're loving on your own kids. And I hope you do that well, and we run this race in our home well and faithfully. So that'll do it for today. We will catch you guys in the next episode. See ya.